welcome you all today. My name is Bruce Mance. I'm an associate dean in the grad school at the University of Colorado Anschutz Medical Campus. I'm also the director of our postdoc office and our career development office. And so very excited to welcome you to our first virtual postdoc recruiting event. So what we hope to do today is really start a conversation, okay? I'm going to give you, for the first half hour or so, I'm going to give you an overview of our campus, introduce you to the postdoc office team, the career development office team, give you a chance to hear from a current member of our postdoc association talking about the PDA and why they chose Anschutz, and then give you an opportunity to hear from some of our faculty leaders and mentors on campus. There is no way that I'm going to be able to cover everything, so we're going to give a high-level overview. If you have questions after today's event, we really do want to hear from you. Hopefully, we will be able to get to the questions either that you posed when you registered or that you asked today. But if not, we absolutely want to make sure we're getting you the information that you need. Our main goal is to really get you thinking about CU Anschutz as a destination for postdoc training. So maybe you're already thinking about that. Maybe you're not, but I'm hoping at the end of today, you really will be thinking about us as one of those premier institutions that you would consider for your own postdoc. Before we go any further, though, we want to do a quick poll just to figure out who is here today. So Aaron's going to open up a poll. It will give you about a minute and a half to answer the 4 questions that are there. And then we'll have the awkward silence as people are answering the poll. Just awkward for me. That's one of the things I've learned about myself, is that I don't do well in quiet. Okay. About 50% done. Three-quarters done. I think you can do it in under a minute. I do. I'm watching. You got 19 seconds. %. Okay, another 5 seconds. We got people just joining right now. Aaron, you want to? We'll close the poll and go off. We're at 92%. Okay. So sharing results. So looks like most people are PhD students. So that's great. Super common. Couple postdocs. Thinking, can you scroll down on that poll for me? There you go. Thinking within the next year, next 1 to 2 years. So perfect. So people are really at that point where you've done some reflection on, should I do a postdoc? Thinking maybe this is something I want to do in the next couple of years. Actively looking for a postdoc, so great. At the end of today's session, we're going to give you some resources for ways that you can find that. And then who's thinking about Anschutz? All right, so some of you are thinking of us already as that powerhouse that we are. Some maybe just another institution. Fair chunk, about 22%, haven't really heard about us before. So that's what we want to do today, is really get us on the map for those institutions that you're thinking about for your postdoc training. Okay. And close that, Aaron. All right. So the University of Colorado Anschutz, this can be a little confusing. And so the first thing we wanted to do is clarify a little bit who we are and where we are. We are one of 4 universities within the Colorado system. Most of you have heard of CU Boulder. When you think about the University of Colorado, that's probably what you're considering. Boulder is in the north, or the top left corner of the map I'm showing you there. It's about 45 minutes from Denver, nestled right in the Flatirons and the foothills. One thing on this map we did want to point out is that everything to the left there in the green, that's mountains. That is the nice foothills. And so when you're sitting in Denver, that's kind of what you're looking at. Within Denver itself, we have the University of Colorado Denver, which is our primary undergraduate institution. There are also graduate programs there. There are postdocs there. But CU Denver really has a focus more on those undergraduate programs. In Aurora, which is in the northeast corner of Denver, that's where the Anschutz Medical Campus is. We are a standalone health sciences campus. So with the exception of some bioengineering students and some nursing students. We really don't have any undergrads on our campus. Way down to the south there is Colorado Springs. That's about 80 miles away. You can see Pikes Peak from the Anschutz campus, though, so it's not that far away. So one of the reasons that this is going to become important is when we start talking about the institution and funding and the research that we do, names matter. And so all of the funding that we have shows up under the University of Colorado, Denver. But CU Denver and CU Anschutz are separate institutions. If you've ever been to Denver before and you've flown into DIA and then driven up to the mountains, you have likely driven right by our campus and maybe even didn't know that it is here. On the campus itself, though, we are the largest academic health science complex in the region. One of the things we're going to cover today is that it's not just in the region that we want you to think about us. We are actually a premier institution within the nation. On our campus, we have 6 health and professional schools. So the School of Medicine, College of Nursing, Colorado School of Public Health, the School of Dental Medicine, the Graduate School, and which one did I forget? I counted off 5. But no, anyway, okay. So because of that, because of the breadth of the schools that we have a lot of research that spans basic clinical and translational and really provides faculty those opportunities to work from bench to bedside. We have over 60 different institutes and centers, so this is way too many to cover in today's session, so I'll dive into some details of some of those later. But again, all of the focus areas we have, usually there is some kind of nucleus of faculty researchers who are working in that area. We have 2 nationally ranked hospitals on our campus, so the University of Colorado Hospital and Children's Hospital Colorado. So again, where you see the marker for the University of Colorado, that's really where our research institutions are, and then the hospitals are just to the south. In the Nature reviews, they had a Nature index that came out recently. CU Anschutz was actually ranked 24th in the world for the measure of health science impact. So again, we are one of those institutions that is really driving innovations in patient care and human health with the work that we do. In fiscal year 23, we had over $860 million in sponsored research and gifts. This is more than CU Boulder. So again, people often think about CU Boulder as really being that premier flagship institution. But when you look at the amount of research that is occurring in the research dollars that come in, CU Anschutz actually tops that list for Colorado. And on our campus, we have over 1,500 principal investigators, and currently we have over 3,500 active clinical trials. So again, lots of information or lots of opportunities to build those collaborations between practicing physicians, clinical research, and basic science. The research that we did, it really does span bench to bedside. So we're working in lots of different groundbreaking areas: Alzheimer's disease, diabetes, Down syndrome. We have one of 50 comprehensive cancer centers on campus. So a couple of our faculty are very involved in cancer research, and they can talk a little bit more about that. The Center for Health AI and the Department of Biomedical Informatics, they're really looking at big data to analyze and transform human health. The CU Anschutz is actually part of a recent NIH initiative where they're putting $130 million over 4 years in their Bridge to AI program. So CU Anschutz faculty are active participants in that. The Ludeman Center for Women's Health Research, this is really focused on cutting-edge technology, mentorship, outreach to address knowledge gaps in gender and sex-specific diseases. Excitingly, we recently had a visit from First Lady Jill Biden. She chose one of 4 universities to visit for her women's health initiative and chose Anschutz because of the work that's happening at the Ludeman Center. And then CU Innovations. So this is our technology transfer office. So CU Innovations is really focused on helping our researchers think about how do you take those ideas that you have in the laboratory and turn them into some kind of product that can actually transform human health. They build a lot of connections with the surrounding bioscience community. And Denver is actually a hub now for investment in the biosciences. I think oftentimes when people think about where is the impactful bioscience and biotech happening, obviously they're thinking of the coasts, they're thinking of the Boston area and the Bay Area, but we're doing a lot of work here in Denver. So over the last 7 years, we have had over $1 billion put into the bioscience market. a recent CNBC article, and we can send you the links to all of these things, really demonstrated the impact that Colorado is having. And so we're moving on to that map of where can you do impactful life science research, both in industry and in academia. And then just a little shout out here. This is a picture of Rick Sen, who is a former CU Anschutz postdoc. Rick is now a group leader and a senior field application scientist at Active Motif. He was very involved with our Postdoc Association. I'm going to do this throughout today, kind of highlight some of those people who have worked here and the things they've moved on to. So when it comes to the actual research that's happening, though, we also want you to think about CU Anschutz as one of those institutions that is leading. This is looking at top NIH grant recipients, so all mechanisms from fiscal year 21 to 23. And you can see that, again, this is where that naming convention comes in, the University of Colorado, Denver. But really, when we talk about NIH funding, we're talking about CU Anschutz. We were 17th out of all universities in the country for total funding. In addition to that NIH funding, you might have heard of some of the ARPA-H initiatives. So ARPA-H was a new funding opportunity to really look at how do we, at scalable speed, move those advancements in creating devices, therapeutics. How do we actually take the research we're doing and put it into practical terms? This is modeled after the DARPA initiative, which is a Defense Department thing. And so again, this is an exciting new opportunity. We have some DARPA-funded investigators who are working with our Gates Biomanufacturing Center for this. And so Dr. Karen Payne and Michael Zusek are leading this exciting opportunity. I'll highlight that they're also the PIs on a T32. So when we're thinking about training grants, getting involved with some of those training grants in these different areas also gets you in connection with these different opportunities. In addition to that, I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the opportunities that can support your postdoc training provided through our Clinical and Translational Sciences Award, which funds the Colorado Clinical and Translational Sciences Institute, or the CCTSI. But this is a $54 million award that was just renewed again, and this provides a lot of opportunities both to do specific research, but then also to support researchers. And finally, we have individual faculty who have received very prestigious awards. So an $18 million award to fund some Down syndrome research. So again, you know, CU Anschutz is an institution that is bringing together people who are doing extremely impactful research and receive quite a bit of NIH and other funding. Specifically for you, one of those questions that came in for the registrations were, what are those opportunities to get involved with training grants? And so again, looking over that same 3-year time span, CU Anschutz is actually 13th in the country for the number of T32s that we have. So you'll see a list of some of those T32s on the right side of the slide. You can find this information on the postdoc office website, and we'll give you some other places where you can learn more about what those T32s are. But again, we really are one of those premier institutions for the number of training grants that we have to support our postdocs. In fiscal year 23, I'll point out that we're actually 10th in the country. So this is that 3-year average. So lots of opportunities. If you come here, you join a lab, you're doing research, but you want to get some of those training grant support, those opportunities are there. For you specifically, though, really thinking about an F32. So one of the best things you can do for your career is to continue to receive NIH funding and establish your own history of funding. And so you may have had an F31, and so the next step in that is to get an F32. And so again, looking over those 3-year period of time, we're actually 9th in the country for the number of our postdocs who have an F32 mechanism. A lot of this comes from a program that we built here to support our PhD students and postdocs, to help them go through that process of putting together their application and submitting it. So we have an NRSA program that was developed through the grad school and the postdoc office that would pair participants up with an additional faculty member to get some review of their proposal, and then it gets to undergo a full mock review before they would submit it. About 40% of our participants have gone on to receive funding. So again, this is over 3 years. In fiscal year 23, we're actually 5th in the country for the number of F32s that we have. So lots of research opportunities for our postdocs to start establishing their own history of funding. The last thing I'd mention about this slide is that these are absolute numbers. Okay, this is not normalized for the number of postdocs you have at an institution. So Stanford, for example, has 2,000 postdocs. CU Anschutz has about 350 postdocs. So if you look at the percentage of our postdocs who actually have their own individual funding, we do much better than even those top institutions. So to tell you a little bit more about our postdocs, so who are they? As I just mentioned, we have about, at any one point in time, 320 postdocs. Over the course of a year, we have somewhere between 400 and 450 because we have people starting and leaving, constant churn throughout that year. About 19% of our postdocs come from groups who are historically underrepresented in the sciences. About 55% of our postdocs identify as female. 32% of our postdocs are international. So lots of opportunity to have both diversity of thought, diversity of experiences. On average, postdocs spend about 2.5 years at CU Anschutz. So I think one of the things that I want to say to students is that sometimes people think about a postdoc as going to be that's 5 years, 6 years, 10 years, however long it may be. But the data don't actually support that. And so how long your postdoc is going to depend on what you want to do for your career. And at CU Anschutz, the average time is about 2.5 years. Our postdocs, when they're done, so 2.5 years is up, a lot of them stay in Colorado. Again, it's a great place to live. We're going to go through some of those things as well. But you see the highest density. This is postdoc alumni data over the last 10 years. The highest density is right here in Colorado. People come out, they really like it, and they find those opportunities to stay. The other areas really would be kind of East Coast, West Coast, but we are spread all throughout the US. We have about an even split between who goes into academic careers and who goes into industry careers. Again, because CU Anschutz is an R1 institution, most of our postdocs go into more research-intensive positions, so higher percentages of faculty in the R1 kind of research domain than we have at education, so less teaching opportunities. Within industry, most folks go into those scientific routes, but we really do spread the wide variety of career options that are out there. We have postdocs who have gone on into government positions, who are working for not-for-profits, medical writing. So when we talk about industry, industry is not monolithic. There are a lot of different things that you can do within the bioscience industry. And so our postdocs really do represent a lot of different career options. Just to highlight a number of those institutions that they go into, most of them, again, stay at CU Anschutz, but we are kind of spread all throughout. And then a lot of the bioscience companies that go into have those satellite facilities in the Denver metro area. So when you think about that, though, if you work for a company like Pfizer, you could work here in Boulder until recently. You could work in that satellite facility area, or you can transfer to other locations because there are those bigger companies. So lots of opportunities to actually work in both academic and bioscience industry careers. So helping them get along that way, this is where I want to talk a little bit about the resources that are here available to support you, just the way that they are to support our other postdocs. The team that we have to support you in this process. And so one of the things that I do want to stress from this is that our institution really does value and invest in postdocs. And some of the first evidence for that is the fact that we actually have a team that focuses both on postdoc affairs and career development that is staffed by people who have PhD experience and are actually all alumni of our institution. So when we think about the career exploration phase, that's myself and Dr. Hannah Hathaway. Hannah is a former president of the PDA. After she finished her postdoc, she went and worked as a high school biology teacher for a number of years before I was able to lure her back here to come work and support for postdocs. Dr. Aaron Golden, who you have met hopefully through some of these communications, is also a former postdoc, very involved vice president of the Postdoc Association, founder of one of our other organizations called Project Bridge, which is a science communication group. After Aaron's postdoc, she was the director of the science fair, the high school science fair for the Denver metro area, as well as the director of undergraduate research on the CU Denver campus, and has now come back to work and support postdocs. For the career development piece, we're really centered around this philosophy that it all starts with you. So you get exposed to do a lot of different things in science, right? Each one of those can be its own standalone career. You may love every aspect of it. You may like all the things that you get to do. You could do a lot of that in a faculty career. But if you find that you really like coming up with the ideas, or you like providing advice, or you're somebody who's really big on data analysis or communicating it. All of those are also standalone careers. So what do you really like? But in addition to what you like professionally, there's who you are personally. So what are you bringing to this situation? What is the value that you offer because of your own lived experiences? Once you know that, once you know, here's what I like to do professionally, here's who I am personally, then you can start looking for those careers that allow you to do those things. The next piece in this, though, which is really where we leverage our postdoctoral alumni, is this process of informational interviewing. So talking to people who are where you, who were where you are now, but are now doing something else. What was their journey like? What did they really enjoy about their career? What are things they wish that they had done sooner? This is critical to help you establish that professional network. As I mentioned, our postdocs are all over the place doing tons of things. So no matter what you want to do, the likelihood is we have somebody who was a postdoc here who's now doing that same thing. Very happy to give back and connect and give you that kind of insight. So talking to people becomes very important for your own career transition, as does testing things out. And so Dr. Alan Morris is going to tell us a little bit about the PDA and why he got involved in a minute. But that is that opportunity for you to put some of these things into practice. When you're doing your postdoc, you get to test drive a faculty career. But if you're interested in medical writing or you're interested in science policy, how do you test some of those things out? But at the end of the day, you just come back to the beginning, right? This is hypothesis driven. Here's what I think I want to do. Run some experiments. Does it seem like that is confirmed? Does it seem like you're rejecting it? But we're here to support you through that process of figuring out what is the next step on your path. And we do that through a number of different ways. So we run workshops a couple of times a month that are focused on a couple different tracks. So one is those career skills. So how do you do things like informational interviewing? How do you build an effective LinkedIn network, LinkedIn profile? But regardless of the position you move into, you're going to be a leader, right? So whether you're running your own group in academia or you're running a group in industry, you are going to be in a position of leadership. And so how do you start stepping into those spaces? Lots of workshops on these, but in addition to that, we have some special programs. So the Individual Career Exploration Research Program, or iSearch, this brings together a lot of our a la carte workshops, but puts you in a cohort with other students and other postdocs so that you can have that peer network as you're exploring the different career options. We also do individual coaching. So if you ever want to sit down and talk about, hey, what are the options that are available to me, or you're applying for a position and you want feedback on your resume or you're interviewing, we set up those times to support you as well. And then to highlight all of this and to bring it all together, we run an alumni series where we invite our postdoc alumni to come talk about the kinds of careers that they're doing. So I have pictured here Mark Lucera. So Mark is a former postdoc member of the Postdoc Association. He now is the head of strategy at the Coalition for Epidemic Preparedness Innovations, which is a nonprofit out of DC. But before that, he was the director for biological threats and global security at the National Security Council. So he advised the president and vice president and ahead of the NSC on how do we get ready to prevent pandemics. Mark, after his postdoc, went and did a AAAS Science and Technology Policy Fellowship and made some of those career steps from there. But again, this is somebody who has this remarkable career and understands what it's like to be at Anschutz. So leveraging the power of our alumni is something that we think is really important. And then the last thing to mention for supporting this, the CDO is not the only office that supports you. As I mentioned, the CCTSI has a number of different programs. They run the Pre-F program, which is the NRSA mock review program that I mentioned before, but they also have one for Ks. So if you're thinking about the step beyond an F32 and you're putting in a K99, there's also an opportunity to get that kind of grant support. Learning how to talk about your research becomes really important for lots of different reasons, but they run workshops on communicating your science to the public and a number of other different opportunities as well. So these are the things that the Career Development Office offers. The Postdoc Association really gives you a chance to get connected to your peers and put into practice some of these things that you're learning. So gaining those leadership skills. It's great to learn about emotional intelligence. It's something else to actually practice that. And so getting involved with the PDA can be a really helpful way to start building some of that and get you connected to campus. This is an opportunity where you can serve on the executive council. You can advocate for institutional change, things like parental leave, or if you have an idea of a way that the institution could be supporting better but isn't, this is that first stop for you to take it to them. Also opportunities for you to share your research. So they run a monthly seminar series. So this is a chance where you can get up and talk about a presentation you're going to give at a conference, or you want to practice giving a job talk, or you want to talk about, talk about anything else. These are opportunities to do that. Once a year, we have Postdoc Research Day, which is a campus-wide celebration of postdocs and the contributions they make to campus. And so lots of opportunities for you to get engaged with your fellow postdocs and start developing those communication skills. Most importantly, though, it's these opportunities to network, to build those connections. I mentioned some of the companies where people are working at now. There's a company called Oxford Pharmagenesis that's a medical writing company. There are about 4 postdocs who used to all be part of the Postdoc Association together that are working at that company. And it all started because one went there and then she recruited some of her friends. So opportunities to build those connections happen at coffee hours. There are trivia events. We do lots of things during National Postdoc Appreciation Week to build some of that community. A new program that they're just starting up is Shadow of Fellow Postdocs. This is a chance for you to kind of get in the lab with another postdoc and see, what is their day-to-day like, learn about that research that they're working on. That's a program that was just an idea somebody had. And so starting those things off. Again, if you have an idea for something that you think would make the experience better, the PDA is a great place for you to start that. And then the postdoc office is really here to support all of those logistical aspects to your training. So we provide a new postdoc orientation, entrance surveys, exit surveys, really anything to help ensure that you are getting the most out of the experience that you have when you're with us. We provide expertise and counsel to different offices on campus, helping with postdoc training related issues or postdoc policy issues. We serve on national committees, so we're very engaged with the National Postdoc Association and the Association of American Medical Colleges group on research, education, and training are great. And that feeds into our sustaining membership in the NPA. So again, our sustaining membership gives you a free affiliate membership that can actually help you, participate in different webinars that they do, discounted registration rate at the national conference. We always support the head of the PDA attending that conference so that our postdocs get to share out all the great programming that they're doing. All right, it's a lot of information. Again, just want to give you that high-level introduction. I think one of the things you're probably most interested in is this compensation and benefits stuff, because you're thinking about, the training area. How do I actually, how do I do that? So want to point out that in 2024, CU Anschutz was actually named one of America's best large employers. So we are recognized, for the kind of environment that we have. CU Anschutz has a competitive postdoc salary. So we have a mandatory minimum that requires all postdocs make at least the NIH year 0, which is currently $61, is actually $008. So we $72 over on that one, 61,000. But the NIH has made it clear that their intention is to move towards a minimum of 70. And so in our current policy, we would follow those levels as well. One of the things that I think I definitely want to stress, though, is that CU Anschutz, one of the investments that CU Anschutz makes in our postdocs is we have navigated the process to ensure that our postdocs receive the same employee level benefits regardless of their funding source. So as you're looking at different postdoc institutions, one of the things you should be asking is, if I get an F, am I still an employee? If I get that fellowship, or do I become a fellow? And oftentimes what happens is that when someone is initially hired on their advisor's R01, they're an employee and they have all these great employee level benefits, and then they get an individual fellowship and they lose all of those benefits. And that's a financial investment from an institution to ensure that that doesn't happen. But we have done that here. And so regardless of your funding source, you have access to regular employee level medical, dental, vision, unemployment, access to voluntary retirement plans, and the tuition waiver program. So you can take up to 9 credits per year for free. So a lot of benefits, and those are extended to all of our postdocs, no matter how they're funded. In addition to university holidays, postdocs get 12 vacation days and 12 sick days, as well as 6 weeks of paid parental leave. FMLA is just job protection, but the family leave program is a Colorado-specific benefit, and this actually allows you to extend some of that parental leave beyond the 6 weeks provided by the university. And then finally, our postdocs are considered equivalent to medical residents for the purposes of loan deferment, so you can actually defer your loans when you're here. But because postdocs are considered an employee category, those loan payments that you would start making actually count towards things like the public service loan forgiveness program. So we can address more questions that you may have as they come up about specific compensation and benefits. And again, this information is available and we will share it with you.
Hey, Bruce, just briefly, there's an emoji window covering part of that slide. Looks like
there's an emoji window. Is it gone now?
We emote a lot at Anschutz. Yes, it's gone now.
Okay, do you see the participant list?
All the emotions are the postdoc feels. We cannot see the participant list. You're good.
Okay, now we're good. Thank you. Apologies for that. But with that, let's talk about all the great emojis you will feel when you see how beautiful Denver is. So the last piece of this before we transition is just to give you a little bit of information about living in Denver. So we have beautiful scenery. There are lots of things to do. I mentioned all that greenery in the map. The foothills are close by. There are lots of open spaces and parks. I think Denver has some of the most parks per capita of any city in the US. The pictures that I showed here, these are not Colorado stock pictures. These are pictures Erin took with her phone while she was driving around. So this is the stuff that is available to you. We have a thriving cultural scene. So Red Rocks Amphitheater, you probably have heard about it. It's an amazing place to go, but lots of other opportunities from art museums to breweries to cuisine. Denver really is, one of those vibrant cities right now. So lots of opportunities to get connected for that. We have lots of sports teams, right? I mean, so it's fun. You don't have to be a huge sports fan, but going to events, going to Rockies games, as bad as they are, part of the reason they are that bad is it's such a fun experience that people still go for that. Right now, the Nuggets, I was worried I wasn't going to be able to say anything about the Nuggets because it was looking pretty bleak, but then they rebounded. And so we can talk about them for that. The Broncos, are very much like Bruno. Nobody talks about Bruno. Nobody talks about the Broncos lately. So I have kids. It's an Encanto joke. But lots of opportunities. So Denver can be a very fun place to live as well. And then the last thing, I know oftentimes finances really are at the front of everyone's mind. But when you look at the cost of living comparison, so this is a composite cost of living looking at different cities in the US, where 100 is the average city, okay? And you look at where Denver ranks on this list. We're 10th on this list. I'm not going to tell you that it is affordable to live in Denver. It's not, right? It is hard because it's a great place to live. A lot of people want to live here. But when you look at it compared to those other cities, New York, San Francisco, Boston, DC, LA, Seattle, we are much more affordable than those institutions. And hopefully at this point, what you realize is the caliber of the research that we're doing here is every bit as good as anything you're going to get in the Bay Area or in Boston. We have lots of opportunities. So again, Denver, I think, offers, in terms of all of the things you have to consider about where would you want to do that training, I think we offer a lot of pluses. But that's hearing it from me. And you may be thinking, that's my responsibility to try to sell you on something. And that's not what I want to do. I want to present you with some data so you can look at that and make your own decisions. But the next thing is we're actually going to give you an opportunity to hear from one of our current postdocs and member of our postdoc association and share a little bit about why they chose CU Anschutz. So Alan, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Great. Hi, everyone. So firstly, I just want to do, well, I'll say exciting time for you all. I wish I was back in, choosing where I want to go. It's, I understand how exciting it is, like learning about all the places you can choose. I just wanted to give a brief overview of why I picked Anschutz and my background. So I'm a postdoctoral fellow currently in the Department of Psychiatry here at CU Anschutz. I did my PhD in clinical neuroscience back in the UK. I then did a year of, well, just less than a year of a postdoc at University of Illinois at Chicago. And I knew very quickly it was not a good fit. It wasn't the research program that I really wanted to do. And I was stuck in a lab, not really interacting with the university or interacting with anything else that was going on. And I didn't see myself developing career-wise as well as a researcher. So I hopped out of there very quickly and I got a job as an editor. So I worked at Nature Portfolio. I worked across Nature Reviews Neurology and Nature Reviews Endocrinology over my time there. I did 5 years, got to the level of senior editor working in Berlin. And I loved that job. It was a lot of fun while I was doing it. When COVID began, it changed the job very drastically from a traveling, interesting job where I was finding out about all the latest research, writing about it, commissioning people to write reviews, to a just stuck at the desk job, which I didn't enjoy very much. And the next step was going to be chief editor roles, which I also didn't want to do. I always wanted to do clinical research, working with clinical samples, working with people from that aspect as a PI. And I used to come to CU Anschutz when I would do conferences in Keystone. So I would travel to Colorado once a year, thereabouts. And whenever I came, I would always try and do lab visits so I could learn about the latest techniques, meet researchers. And Anschutz was right on the doorstep of traveling up into the mountains to get into Keystone. And so I developed some relationships with some PIs here and visited the campus. The first time I came, I just fell in love with the environment. It was beautiful, and it's a really feel-good environment, unlike some institutions which are very old. It's a really nice campus and environment to be on. It's inspiring to be around, and also, spending time in the research labs here and learning about what other groups were doing and how interconnected it was as a campus. So when I decided to step away from editing, it was an easy decision for me to contact people who were already working on the campus here. So for me, the five, I guess the top reasons were the research program. That was really why Anschutz was on the top of my list of where to come. The research program here was excellent that I'm involved in psychiatry. My research is interested in the blood-brain barrier, and I'm very interested in therapeutics that can potentially help increase the health of the blood-brain barrier over the lifespan. Also, another huge part for me was development, and that's not just research development. That's career development and all-round, personal, as well as other aspects of the career. Coming from a company, a big publisher, and then moving back into academia, I'd seen the differences between what it's like to work in an industry, in a publishing industry setting, and then moving out of academia, and it was vastly different. They spent a lot of time scrubbing all of the stuff that I'd learned as a postdoc PhD student and training me to be a representative for the country, a representative for myself, a representative for nature when I traveled to conferences. And so I was on leadership programs all the time. I was being put into opportunities to develop my career as well. They saw that I was going to move on from editing into more managerial positions. So that was a big part of me, to find a university and institution that really invested in the career development of postdocs, because it's being a PI is not just research. You're going to have a team. You're going to be managing you. So that was a huge part for me, and I saw that there was a really excellent program here run by the career development office and the postdoctoral office. And then the next part was postdoctoral community. So I'd seen on LinkedIn that there was the Postdoctoral Association. I'd found the website, and was very interconnected with postdocs. So I wanted to make sure that I wasn't just alone in a lab, that I could share experiences with other postdocs, meet with other postdocs. As an international postdoc moving out here, I wanted to make sure that there were opportunities for me to do things with people outside of work, to relax and to enjoy life. So that was another major aspect, which CU Anschutz had that. And I'm currently going through the process of K99 application and putting all that together, which requires help from lots of faculty, different departments. And it has been unbelievably easy here. When Bruce speaks about collaborative research, it truly is. Every single PI that I've reached out to has been completely on board with joining as my advisory team. I haven't had anybody say I don't have time. So I've been able to get, as a K99 research development side, access to the various research cores that there are here, and there are tons of them. And I mean, like I say, I built an amazing advisory team to help me build the career that I want and the direction that I want to go in. So it's enabled me to move departments. I was when I first came out here, in another department, and I'm now in psychiatry, and I'm putting my application in for K99 there. So the collaborative aspect has been fantastic. And then just the last thing, the research credits for doing courses. has also been an amazing addition, because for my K99, I have these free credits, which I don't need to put into the grant application. So I have more money available to do the research. So it's been an excellent space for me. So that's why I chose it here, was those main reasons. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Alan. Sorry, I couldn't find it's two screens there, and I'm old dog, new tricks. Okay, so what we want to do for the next part of this, and again, keep thinking about those questions that you have, so when we get to the Q&A at the end, we have a chance to address some of those. We want to let you hear from some of our faculty members. As Alan was just saying, I really do think that we absolutely have some exceptional faculty members on our campus. I get to interact with them quite frequently. That's not always the case for things. And so we want you to have an opportunity to hear from some of them. And so Aaron is going to moderate just a little bit of a panel, but as we're going through this, at the end of that, we'll transition into all of your questions. So keep thinking about, what would you like to ask so that we can address those. I'm going to stop sharing and hand it over to Aaron.
Yeah. Hey, everybody. As Bruce introduced before, I'm Dr. Erin Golden, and I'm the Assistant Director of the Postdoc Office, as well as a former Anschutz postdoc. And you've gotten to hear from Bruce about our postdoc office and our campus, and you've gotten to hear from Dr. Alan Morris about his experience as a postdoc. And now we really want to give you the opportunity to hear from our faculty. So we have 3 faculty members here today: Dr. Haida Ford, who's the chair of the Department of Pharmacology and a professor of pharmacology; Dr. Bruce Apple, who's a professor of pediatrics and the section head of the Department of Pediatrics; and then Dr. Mary Rayland, who's a professor of craniofacial biology and director of our T32 program in cancer biology. And so I'm going to ask them to each go around and share a little bit about themselves and the research being done in their departments. And then we will open it up to questions for our faculty. So Dr. Ford, I'm going to ask you to go first. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your research in the department?
Okay, thanks, Erin. And that was it was great for us to hear about all the new and great things at the postdoc office too. As Erin said, my name is Haida Ford. I am the chair of the Department of Pharmacology. I've been a professor here at the University of Colorado for 23 years now, which is a bit scary. But part of that is because I love it so much here in Colorado. So just so I emphasize that. So our department of the pharmacology is a pretty broad department in terms of what we cover. Probably about half of our department faculty are neuroscientists. Actually, Bruce trained as a postdoc in our department with a neuroscientist in this department. So most of our faculty are very interested in synaptic plasticity. They work around understanding synaptic plasticity, learning and memory in the context of many different disease states, whether that be Alzheimer's or schizophrenia or epilepsy, for example. They do a lot of very amazing sort of single molecule type of analysis in synapses. So they study single molecules using a lot of very advanced microscopy techniques. So there's a lot of cool new technology that they do, also optogenetic types of techniques. So the other half of our department is more focused in cancer biology, but also basic molecular mechanisms. So we have people looking at sort of the epigenetic alterations in cancers, or just doing the structural biology, so very basic mechanistic work around epigenetic players or molecules. We also have a number of our researchers who are very interested in metastasis, so tumor progression, how tumor cells move from primary sites to secondary sites, and tumor cell plasticity. So that's sort of where my lab focuses, is more in the tumors plasticity realm. And we cover a lot of different types of cancers, all the way from sort of a number of adult tumors, such as breast cancers and prostate cancers and glioblastoma, so brain cancers, but also a number of pediatric cancers, including sarcomas like Ewing sarcoma and rhabdomyosarcoma and medulloblastoma, so brain cancers. So a lot of different areas of work. And I think what thematically joins us all in the Department of Pharmacology is the study of basic molecular mechanisms that can be perturbed by drugs, small molecules, right? We're a pharmacology department, so we think a lot about how we might be able to use drugs to perturb such pathways and understand them, but also to then think about developing new drugs or therapies for different types of diseases. What else did you want me to, is that enough of an introduction?
I think that's a great introduction.
Okay.
We'll come back. I'll come back to you after that. Thank you,
Okay,
Haida.
yep.
Dr. Apple, I'll have you go next. Tell us about the Department of Pediatrics.
Hi, all. Right, so I'm Bruce Apple. I'm a developmental biologist, developmental neurobiologist, and so I'm head of the section of developmental biology in the Department of Pediatrics. And so let me tell you what that means. So pediatrics here is a huge department. It's more than 1,200 faculty. We're the largest pediatrics department in the country, ranked second in the nation in terms of NIH funding. So we're split up into about 26 sections, or what other places call divisions. We're very rare for a clinical department in that we are purely a basic research section. So we really function as a basic science department within this huge department of pediatrics. And so across pediatrics, there are probably about 100 PhD scientists within my own section. There are about, let's see, I counted up, we're about 17 faculty, tenure track and research track. We are actively recruiting. So we just signed a letter of offer just this last week, and we've got another recruitment going on. So in the section, we probably have our greatest breadth in developmental neurobiology, but we also have research in cardiovascular development, reproductive development, Down syndrome, and intestinal development. So so within the section, we have currently about a dozen postdocs, I'd say. One of those has a K99, 4 of those have F32s, and 1 is on a T32. So we've done very well at helping our folks get their independent fellowships. We're continuing to grow, and we're emphasizing collaborative, translational, and basic research in our growth. So all of their faculty recruitments, so in essence, we've tripled in size in the last 5 years since I became section head. And so most of our faculty recruitments are done in collaboration with other sections, with clinical sections in the Department of Pediatrics. And so we hire a PhD scientist that way, and we give them the basic science home. But what we do is we establish then a connection to our clinical friends, and this opens up the opportunities for a more collaborative translational work. So as an example, the person that just signed on last week, we did this recruitment in collaboration with our Barbara Davis Diabetes Research Center, which is part of pediatrics. He's a pancreas stem cell person, and we have a recruitment going on right now with pediatric pulmonology for a lung stem cell biologist as well. So we're within this framework, we think we have a lot of great postdoc training opportunities that are really grounded in basic research, but give you lots of opportunities to connect into the translational and clinical child health related research here on campus. We do a number of things to support our postdocs. I ran a graduate training program for a very long time, and I became, and I also was a graduate student and then a postdoc a very long time ago. And I was acutely aware of the difference between graduate training and postdoctoral training. Graduate training, we all put a lot of emphasis into program building. So you have a cohort of colleagues that come in, and you can support your peers often by complaining about the core course you all have to take together. But as postdocs, there's a potential for it being a kind of an isolating experience as you come in and you enter a lab as an individual. And so what we've really tried to do is create a community for our postdocs where they can really support each other. So we do things like we, of course, have mentoring committees for each of our postdocs. We pay for a monthly lunch that's just for the postdocs. They can talk about whatever. They can invite people to come in and talk about special topics if they'd like. We provide funds for them to invite seminar speakers to campus. There's funds for an annual postdoc retreat. And we also provide pretty substantial funds for postdocs to support conference travel, to attend special courses, and for computer purchases as well, which often is a little bit of a tricky thing to do. I guess I would end by, and I think the philosophy that we've tried to develop there is we really want people to be kind of bold, feel like they have the support to be bold and creative in their research and innovative. And so what we're trying to do is provide resources. And this is not specific to my section. This really is across the view across campus, I think. And really it's like, what we need to do is provide people with the opportunities and the resources for them to succeed. And I'll just end kind of by picking up by something that Haida said. I've been here for 16 years. I spent 10 years at Vanderbilt before I came here. This is the most collegial, interactive, collaborative, supportive group of research community that I've ever been part of here. I absolutely love it here. And I think it's just a really a terrific place to do additional training and to move on to the next step in your career. Thanks.
Thank you, Bruce. I love that we come here and do bold research, right? Really feel like you're supported. We had a few questions that came in before the session about what kind of funding do postdocs get? Do you have to come in with your own funding? And I think really one of the themes I'm seeing emerge in this session is there's a lot of different ways that you'll be supported. And really, we want you here to have the freedom to explore. So that's great. All right, Dr. Rayland, I'm going to turn it over to you to tell us about the Cancer Center.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. I'm going to tell you that collectively, Dr. Ford, Dr. Apple, and myself have been here 70 years. So you can do the math. We never leave. Actually, there are people that leave Colorado and then they spend a lot of time trying to come back. So people are very happy here. We really, I know I've done a lot of recruiting over the years, and I tell people are very happy and collaborative. And I'm really gratified when actually people come here and they sort of reaffirm that. So everyone's here to help you. And the faculty are, I think, just wonderful and encouraging. And I can say that because I've worked with many of these wonderful faculty over the years. So just a little bit about my background. Like Dr. Ford and Dr. Apple, I also ran a graduate program for about 11 years in the cancer biology program until just a couple of years ago. This was probably one of the most rewarding things that I've done in my career. And I think most people probably have a similar thought. I also am a PI with Dr. Kramer of our T32. And our T32 is from the National Cancer Institute. And it's a bit different. A lot of the T32s here fund either pre-docs or postdocs. Ours actually funds both. And so we have slots for postdocs. And so we really make a big effort to include postdocs in the larger cancer biology training community. And so that means that postdocs are incorporated into all the research in progress talks. We had 2 postdocs give a research in progress talk last week in our seminar series. And they're very involved in the retreat. And one of the kind of cool things that they do, which we just had last week, was they plan a symposium for the campus. And so we had a symposium that we brought back 3, we had 4 outside people come, 2 of whom had actually been here, and 1 had actually been on our T32 and had been a postdoc and a pre-doc here. And then we couple that with a career development session where these faculty, most of them are, within about 5 or 10 years of finishing, talk about their transitions, either to industry or to academics, or in some cases other positions. So we really try to have opportunities for our postdocs, particularly on the T32, to really have these networking and ability to host speakers and learn about different types of careers that they might go on to. I also am a PI of a grant that funds a summer program through the Cancer Center. And so we've been sort of incorporated with the Cancer Center for many years now. The cancer training programs and the Cancer Center work together, dare I say collaboratively. And they're very, very supportive. And the other thing that I've done, which was also very fun, and I continue to be involved in, is I was immediate past president of the Cancer Biology Training Consortium. And this is a rather interesting thing for cancer. If you're interested in cancer biology, it's a national group of faculty and trainees that are involved in sort of deciding what's next in cancer biology training for the country. And we work a lot with NIH and the National Cancer Institute on that. So that's really been a great opportunity for our postdocs here to participate in some of those activities as well. Let me see here. So I'm in the Department of Craniofacial Biology. In that department are mostly craniofacial biology developmental faculty. So we have one of the top in the country group of faculty that work on development of the craniofacial development, both in trying to understand normal development, but also in the context of diseases such as cleft palate. And so that's quite interesting. If you're interested in development at all, I would say check us out. We also have faculty that work on RNA biology, work on signaling, signal transduction. My laboratory has worked on trying to help patients that have radiation therapy and have a lot of damage to not the tumor. Of course, you're trying to eradicate the tumor, but the surrounding tissues. And this is really a huge problem and can sometimes patients have to stop therapy because there's so much collateral damage to these other tissues. And so we work really at the mechanistic level in trying to understand changes and how to regulate DNA repair. And we have a couple targets that we're working on and hopefully we'll move into the clinic and also more recently metabolism. So I would say we're really firmly in that arena of basic science and basic mechanisms that we're trying to understand. So you'll find a lot here. You'll find a big stretch between very, very basic scientists and people that are moving things into the clinic. And in that spectrum, we have, quite a few MD PhDs that are sort of working on both of those. And so you could be in a laboratory where you might learn and do research that is really mechanistic to discover new targets, but also in the laboratory, they may be developing clinical trials. And so you might have an opportunity to experience that whole spectrum here. And that's kind of useful, especially for pre-docs, it's very useful, but I think also for early postdocs to sort of solidify where you want to fall in that very big area, what we call biomedical research. So I think I actually would like to pass this over to Haida just for a minute, because as I said, we collaborate very strongly with the Cancer Center, and the Cancer Center is very supportive of trainees and particularly postdocs.
Yeah, so I'll interject here. I guess one thing I didn't say is that in addition to wearing my hat as the chair of the Department of Pharmacology, I'm the Associate Director for Basic Research in our Cancer Center, so in the University of Colorado Cancer Center. So like Mary said, we collaborate very closely on a number of these training mechanisms for postdocs, and Mary has been great in leading a number of these for us. So I guess I should also mention, so the collaborations there are great because you can, again, there's a lot of moving all the way from the basic mechanistic to the more clinically relevant, and you can work in between, and there's a lot of collaboration between the basic scientists and the clinicians. But I guess the other thing I want to mention there is that's not only unique to the Cancer Center. We have a number of different centers on this campus, and the centers interface quite a bit with the department. So we have, you know, the Linda Cernick Center for Down Syndrome. I think Bruce mentioned that they had Down syndrome researchers in his division. We have them in our department also. In fact, we have the head of our Down Center, the Linda Cernick Center, sorry, Joaquin Espinoso. I think there was just an article in the Washington Post yesterday or the day before about some of the work he does in that space. So we're really, really known in that space too. Similarly, we have a lot of neuroscientists in different departments, including in Bruce's division, in cell and developmental biology, in our department, et cetera. And so there's a lot of interaction also with psychiatry. So across the clinical and the basic spectrum there. So the centers sort of weave in with the department such that we have interactions, whether that be through the Cancer Center, with people running the different training grants and T32s, et cetera, but also with many of the different centers in the institution.
Great, thank you, everybody. So we heard about the great resources that we have for once you're here to do a postdoc, but I know a lot of our folks on here are graduate students that are looking for how to get into a postdoc, and all three of you have been chairs of graduate departments, and I'm hoping you could share some advice about what folks should be looking for as they're trying to identify a good postdoc mentor or lab. So I'll let any of you jump in.
So I think, you know, one of the key things you want to do is identify a mentor who's going to be supportive and who's going to let you take the work, especially if you want to go to a faculty position after this point. You want to know that your mentor is going to be supportive of you taking some of the research that you develop in their lab to your next step. So I think it's always a very important question to ask whether, you know, what have they done in the past? Have they supported their own postdocs to take that work with them into faculty positions, and where have they gone? You know, I think you'll find the faculty here are really good about that and want to see their students and postdocs be very successful. So that's certainly one key thing that you want to know about when you're looking at the sort of the next step. I don't know if Bruce and Mary want to interject at all.
Yeah, there are so many different mentoring and learning styles. So you have to figure out what you need and what works for you. And so having conversations up front about how do you work? What are your expectations? What's your vision? That's just really important. Right. And so I agree with everything Ida says. It's also, you know, depending on what path you're really thinking about, again, just being really upfront about what your own goals are and what you want to get out of the experience and what you want to take with you from it. So yeah, good basic communication up front, really important.
Yeah, I don't have much to add, except that I think when you start your postdoc, that's when you start looking for that next step. And so make sure you're aware of what's available at your institution, and make sure that you're going to partner with your mentor in helping you prepare for that next step. So that's really important that you have that kind of communication.
Yeah, to add to what Mary's saying there, I have to say that with my own postdocs, I sort of tailor their project in a way that's going to help them for that next step. And I think that's what you want to find. So for example, at one point I had a postdoc come to me who wanted to teach in a small liberal arts college and wanted to take their research to that next step, and had been working all in mouse models, which is a lot of what I do initially, and felt like it could be hard to take these mouse models to a small liberal arts college. So she and I talked quite a bit, and we figured out a project where we could move her into zebrafish models in collaboration with another colleague here, because zebrafish models would be more amenable to taking to the kind of job she wanted to get. And she did exactly that. She moved into zebrafish. It was great because I got to move into a new area. And then she was able to find a faculty job in exactly the kind of place she wanted, a small liberal arts college where she could teach and do some of her research. So I think finding a mentor who will tailor your projects to the next step, what you want to do next, is really important.
Great advice. And I would say I'd encourage people to also, as you're looking at postdoc labs, to not only talk to the mentor, but once you start seriously considering if this is the place you want to go, talking to the folks in their labs as well. That's how you can help identify, folks' mentoring style and really getting a feel for what's worked well for others. Alan, do you want to jump in and say, see if you have any advice as well?
Yeah, I think the points raised about mentorship styles, it's, going through PhD, learning from your current mentor. What do you like? What do you find could be, you would find a different mentorship style more helpful? That's huge. It's really is finding the individuals within a faculty who you'll respond to their mentorship and you'll understand. And it's, I have a very specific kind of mentor that I find that I work with, and some, it's just variable with where you go, and there's no right or wrong approach, and there are things here at the Career Development Office that I've done while I've been here, which have helped me understand how to respond to different mentors, what mentorship approach I really respond to, and learn more about myself and which leaders that I work well with. So yeah, I think that's a great bit of advice and something that I used for this postdoc, coming in the second time around, to know and ask these very valuable questions of your future mentors and of how they work and what their expectations of you are as a postdoc.
I'll say, Alan, I also heard both you and Bruce Apple mention mentoring committees. And so I think that that's another way to diversify the mentorship you're getting as well. I don't know if anyone wants to speak to that. But
I think generally, we do try to set up mentoring committees, and also for junior faculty. I think it's essential. When you write an F-32, it's pretty much expected that you will have a mentoring committee, and they will bring the opportunities to learn new things and to guide you in areas that you need to develop strengths in and skills in. So I very much recommend that people have a mentoring committee, and I think that that's become pretty much, shared among the faculty here, and I think most people do have a mentoring committee.
Great.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna add to that as well, just from just a bit of personal advice of when I started here. I think hit the ground running. Don't be afraid to reach out to people and ask. The worst you're going to hear is, I don't have time at the moment, but it's just inserting yourself into the postdoc community and into the research community that you're here with. And I've met people who, one of the professors here did their postdoc at the university I did my PhD at, and I worked with their PI when I was there. We overlapped very briefly, although I didn't realize it. And they're now someone who's advising me. So, you realize these connections of people from all around the world are here that you can connect with and work with them. So yeah, I think just as I would say, I wish I'd started 6 months earlier, just reaching out to faculty and saying, I'm really interested in what you're doing. Here's what I'm doing. Is there any way we could collaborate? Because in adding a mentorship, program to yourself, if that makes sense, you're the CEO of your own mentorship program, as well as what the faculty provide, which in psychiatry at least has been excellent, connecting me with people here on my mentorship team. So yeah.
Great. Thank you, Alan. So in just a minute, Bruce is going to show you how you can find postdoc positions at Anschutz. But I wanted to ask our faculty, kind of as we wrap up the faculty panel, is there any closing advice you want to give to our attendees? And actually also wanted to add in the question of, how far ahead of time do you like to hear from potential candidates? So
Now.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you're a year out, it's a good time to start sending out those emails and talking to people and looking, because it's always expected to take some time, and you really need to take the time to find a place that where you feel like you can fit, where the mentoring style is good, but also where you're really passionate about. I mean, my advice would be, go for something you're passionate about, work that you're passionate and excited about, right? That makes it not feel like work. It makes it feel like something fun you're doing every day when you come into lab, right?
Yeah, I mean, this really has to be driven by y'all to do this, because there's often no straight path, right? But often there is a path, but it takes a while to figure out. And I think, yeah, this is your career, and so you need to take a hold of that. And I think many faculty mentors really like to see people who are very focused on developing their career and not being passive about just coming in and saying, hey, you got a job where I can hang out. We want to see people who have their own ideas, who are choosing their postdocs because they have a specific career path that they want to follow. So being proactive, being specific about things is really, I think, very a useful approach. And before I get off, I want to make one more note because the community is so important. And I realized that on this call, Mary and Haida and I all know each other really well, and we weren't selected for that. I know Aaron really well, and Bruce, Matt, and I get each other's email all the time because of the pop-up feature. So this is a really easy place to get to know people. There's the campus is gorgeous. There's this big open sky. I'm out looking over the foothills right now, and I think that open sky is a really great metaphor for how things operate here. And I think it's just a really, really wonderful place to be.
I think we would all second that or third that.
Yeah.
Great.
I
Well,
would just say, don't be shy about reaching out to people, the kind of the ball's in your court, and you just need to explore all your options and don't feel like, I think sometimes, especially with students, I noticed, well, if I email Dr. So-and-so, are they going to know I emailed this person? Are they going to get their feelings hurt? Or, all these emotional things, just put all that aside. We're not about that. We're about you. So don't be intimidated and don't try to second guess all your, just connect with as many people as you are interested in, and talk to as many people as you're interested in. And then when you come here, maybe you'll have, we all need a lot of mentors, right? I mean, most of us don't just get by on a postdoc mentor and a pre-doc mentor. We have a group of mentors. So that will be, will help you. You'll know other people when you come here. So yeah, reach out.
it's all about you, and the sky is wide open, I think, are great notes to end our faculty panel on. Before we move into Q&A for like the general group here, Bruce is going to show you a little bit about how you can go about finding postdoc positions here. So Bruce, I'll hand it back to you.
Okay, thanks, Erin. Let me share my screen again, because as we mentioned, reaching out, being proactive, those are great things, but it's also hard to find opportunities. So no emojis, right? We're good. It looks okay. Okay. So we have a couple ways that you can do this. We have tried to make this process a little bit easier for you. You will find this information on the Postdoc office website. We'll send it out to you. Before I dive into that, I want to point back to this picture though, because you actually see those three people on the right. That's Hannah, who is now our Career Development Office Program Manager. That is Rick, who I highlighted earlier, and that is Mark Lucera right there. So we didn't pick them for the other parts of the presentations for this. It just happened this was a picture we had of the PDA, and they happened to be in it. So one of the first things to do is to check out our PDO job board. So what we have here are posts from faculty who have said, you know what, I am open to talking about postdoc opportunities. I think one of the biggest challenges oftentimes is you don't know necessarily who's looking. And so it's on you, well, so-and-so knows my mentor, I was referred this way, but you only are connected to people who are already in your network. What we have on this job board is just notices from faculty who are saying, you know, I am open to talking about a postdoc. Here's what we do. Here's the kind of person that would be a good fit for our lab. So you can peruse those opportunities and contact faculty directly through that board. Some of those opportunities are actually linked to positions that are hiring right now too. So this is a place where you can find some of those opportunities where people are interested in having conversations with you. If you're currently on the market and you want to apply directly, all of our postdoc positions will be posted through CU Careers. So if you want to actually see what are the kinds of opportunities where people are actively hiring right now, you would find that through the CU Careers connection. And so doing a keyword search for postdoctoral, postdoc, selecting the Anschutz campus, this is where you would find all of those positions. So if you're saying, you know what, I'm ready to start putting in my applications, I want to start something in August or July or whatever, that would be the place where you would want to look. If you don't find anything there, though, we have a third option for you, And this is just what some of those would look like. We have a third option for you, and this is this postdoc inquiry link. And so here you actually can, you'll be connected to our database of faculty researchers. So you can identify who's doing what in your field in the area that you're interested in, and actually send them an email through this system. So this again is a way to help you make those connections where you can send a message up to 3 faculty members at a time. But again, it's also linked to Colorado Profiles, which is our database of all the different research areas that our faculty on campus have. So if you're interested in cognitive neuropsych, cognitive psychology analysis, just to pick 2 random things out there, and you want to figure out who's doing that work, you could do that and then find those faculty and send them emails. So we're trying to make this really easy for you to find opportunities, to find faculty to do this matchmaking, so you can figure out who's looking for opportunities and make that process easier. If you ever have questions, if you have questions about reaching out, if you have questions about individual faculty, that's why Erin and I are here, is to support you in that process. We're happy to talk about things and help you no matter how we can, to ensure that you're getting the right kind of fit and you're getting the information you need. So we'll send out this information as well at the end of today's session, so that you have a link to the slides, but then also the direct links to some of these systems. And hopefully using these, you'll be able to identify some faculty who might be a good fit for you in the next steps in your own career. Okay, Erin, I'm going to stop sharing.
Yeah, and now we really want to just open it up to questions. So you can use the Q&A feature. If you want to unmute and ask a question, that's okay too. But please ask questions of our faculty members, of Dr. Morris, of Bruce and I, whatever questions you have, we're here to answer.
So one question I'm going to start with, because it came into the Q&A, asking about, are there opportunities for postdocs to transition into faculty positions within the CU system after their postdoc? And so I'll start commenting. Faculty, please jump in as well. We have lots of examples of people who have transitioned from postdocs to regular tenure track faculty positions. So it absolutely happens both here at CU Anschutz, at Boulder, at some of the other institutions. But we also have a lot of postdocs who have gone into non-tenure track positions. So research series, folks who have identified, you know what, I'm really interested in just doing the research. I don't want to have service responsibilities. I don't want teaching responsibilities. One individual in particular, thinking about really interested in commercialization and getting involved with the tech transfer office, moved into a research assistant professor line. So there are lots of opportunities to transition into faculty positions, whether it's instructor, research series, regular tenure track series. So those opportunities absolutely exist.
Great, thank you, Bruce. I'm going to take the next question that came in. It says, it sounds like there's a lot of basic neuroscience work happening at CU. Are there centers and PIs focused on the cognitive neuroscience and neuropsychology level of analysis? Yes, definitely. I'm going to drop you a link. If any of the faculty want to hop in with an example, that's fine. Yeah.
Bruce, do you want to, or do you want me to?
You know, we can both take it. So from our perspective, so we do not have a department of neuroscience. So neuroscience is distributed throughout many departments on campus, and I think that's a real strength to it. And so this ranges everywhere from cellular molecular neuroscience to systems neuroscience. And that's probably a good transition to Haida, because Haida's got perhaps one of the most incredible collections of synaptic biologists in the country in her department, I think.
Yes, actually, we I think at this point are really on the map for that. We're very well known. We speaking of recruiting, Bruce talked about recruiting a couple of faculty in his division. We have just recruited 2 new neuroscientists in the synaptic plasticity space who will be joining us. So one coming to us from Columbia and then Stanford, and the other now from Baylor. So we're pretty excited about that. We also have the vice chair of my department is the director of the Neurotechnology Center. So in addition, so while it is very distributed, like Bruce mentioned, and we cover all sorts of different areas from the all sorts of different neuroscience space, actually, from, you know, there's a hearing and taste and smell center to working on memory and learning to working on more of sort of the psychiatric ends of things and how certain drugs might affect that. The Neurotechnology Center is really there to support the technology that we need to do a lot of the types of studies that we do. So in the Neurotechnology Center, we have core facilities, we have a lot of equipment that people can access. That's big equipment that you might not be able to have in your own specific lab. So, you know, there's a lot of collaboration, I should say, between the different neuroscience groups within the different departments through things like the Neurotechnology Center. And I think there is a sort of drive to develop an institute. We don't have that yet in neuroscience, but there is work towards that.
That's great. Another great question that came in is it feasible to transition if we're interested in a lab that has research much different from what we're experts in? So what's kind of the grace period for learning new technology? So I'll let our faculty take that.
You mean as a postdoc to do
Yeah,
something
I think
different?
transitioning
Oh, yeah.
from-
I
yeah.
think that's a really great idea. Something that allows you to sort of move into a different area or extend your area that, you know, maybe from very basic research to something that's more translational. Yes, those are not only opportunities, but I think they're really strategic in many cases.
Absolutely. The breadth is great. I come from an era where you were expected to do something very different, and that's emphasized less now. But still, if you can bring a number of different perspectives to your research, that is going to be a real strength for you.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. It's a great thing to do to move into a different space so that you have more different, you know, you get trained in more different skills and more in different areas that you can bring together. And honestly, research these days is so multidisciplinary that it's pretty important to think about spanning different areas. It's pretty hard to do just one niche area at this point. I think you have to think in a more broad way. So I would
And
also
these are and these are training positions. So the whole point is to give you new experiences and new skills.
Excellent. Bruce Apple, this next question is for you because you mentioned that the Department of Pediatrics is one of the largest in the country, but you talked a lot about the basic science, and folks want to know about the behavioral scientists in children and adolescents that could be a good fit for the postdoc, some of the more clinical stuff.
Okay. So there's a lot of them. So there are training programs specific to those areas. I honestly can't tell you a whole lot about that, but we have Children's Hospital right here on campus, as I think Bruce made that point. And we are, Bruce might have made this point too, and I was probably multitasking, but you know, this is the largest medical research center between here and San Francisco and Chicago, something like this. So we have a huge catch basin, if you will, of patients, and that's certainly true for Children's Hospital. And they have a very large group of behavioral investigators there.
Yeah, I'll say that I just dropped some links in the chat, but we are one of the top children's hospitals in the country. Many opportunities.
And just to add one thing to that too, because there's another question about connections to Children's Colorado. So the way that our system works, all of our physicians are actually university employees. So all the physicians who staff Children's Hospital, who staff university, are actually university employees. And so those connections become very easy. There are postdocs at Children's, there are postdocs at the VA, and so there are other postdocs who are on the same campus who are not university employees, and we work routinely with those postdocs to get them connected to our postdoc association. So again, you know, those opportunities, because we all are on that same campus, it makes the collaboration very easy.
And I want to point out also that we have a number of T32 programs that are also focused on training those clinician scientists. So if you're somebody here who's doing a medical degree or has that clinical background, there are opportunities here for you as well. There are
Yeah,
two
and
questions.
just,
Oh,
sorry,
go
can
ahead,
I
Haida.
follow up on that real quickly? In the chat, that question says that, you know, the Department of Pediatric is one of the largest in the country, but is mainly basic science. I think what Bruce was saying was his division is mainly basic science, but there are many divisions in that department, many of which do quite a bit of research, but more in the clinical translational space. So another example would be pediatric heme onc. That division, it has a lot of researchers, but they're working more in the translational space. So moving that into the clinic, moving their findings into the clinic. So the department is huge and has all levels of research, from the very basic to the very clinical.
Thank you, Haida.
Another question I want to make sure we get to is for international scholars. So other than K99, what kind of funding are international scholars supported on in your labs?
I guess I'll jump in. That's largely going to be funding to the lab, to your mentor, and also, of course, your private foundation types of fellowships, like American Heart, are going to be available to international students.
Yeah, and I think Bruce Mant mentioned that we have an Office of International Scholar and Student Services that provide support to our international scholars. So you will not be alone in navigating that path. Another question I wanted to get to before we kind of wrap up here is the kind of teaching and lecturing opportunities for postdocs. As we mentioned, there's not undergrads on our campus, but there is the downtown campus close by. So Bruce Mant, do you want to speak to that, or to any of the other faculty speak to that?
Yeah. So that is one of those things that can be challenging. The Denver campus is always looking for postdocs to teach, and we have a number of folks who have gone and taught in the psychology department or the integrated biology department. So again, those opportunities, because we have those connections to the Denver campus are there, those opportunities do exist. Community College of Aurora is 5 minutes away. We have postdocs who have taught courses at CCA. So again, you know, there are a lot of opportunities there. I will mention that we're in the process of putting in an ARACTA grant right now. And so this would formalize a number of different teaching opportunities where you actually could be part of that structured program. But even without that funding, we have had the opportunity to build structure and strengthen those connections, both with the Denver campus, but then MSU Denver, which is on the same Auraria higher education complex. So there are lots of opportunities there, but it would be up to you to identify that that's something you want to do. But we are definitely committed to helping you identify and find those opportunities and make the connections if that's something that you're interested in.
I would just add that we've had postdocs, in particular, I can think of 2 or 3 on the T32 that have taught courses either at Colorado College or at University of Colorado, Colorado Springs. And so those individuals are great resources to help connect to some of those institutions. I mean, obviously, if you're on a T32 or you're in a lab doing postdoc, you know, you have to limit what you do, but it's certainly feasible to teach, fill in for someone, you know, on maternity leave or something, and teach a course, and they've had very good experiences, and in some cases led to jobs there. So.
Great. Well, keeping an eye on time, it is right about 12:30, so I don't want to make people stay on who have to go. I think Bruce and I are happy to stay on and answer questions for those who don't want to ask in front of the entire group. But Bruce, do you want to share that slide again that has our contact info?
How about you drop it into the chat, Erin, and I'll just make a closing remark, which really appreciate everybody's time, both the attendees today, but the panelists. And as I said in the beginning, our goal is to start a conversation. So we hope this is information for you to think about, that you're now considering Anschutz is really a destination to do your training. And as those questions come up, please reach out to us. This is why we're here. We're here to support you from you know, the time you come in to the time you move on to whatever it is that you do. I hope you have a better idea of who we are as a campus and what those opportunities hold for you. And we look forward to hearing from you in the future. So again, we will send out information to everybody who registered and attended today. And if anything comes up, please just reach out and let us know. So thanks, everybody, and we wish you luck with all of your future career aspirations.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks all.
Thank you.